What's going on, guys? So recently I had someone reach out and comment asking about how I feel about my English laundry fragrances, asking where they were. They never really see them anymore. And the main reason for that is because they unfortunately suffered the reformulation bug. But the reason I wanted to revisit this today, even though I have older bottles before that happened that used to perform really great, I do have one of those loose modern tester bottles you can find at Marshall's, and then we'll also talk about the full presentation ones you can find for under $15 at Burlington. And I want to discuss are they still worth grabbing, because it's still a ridiculous bargain at that price point, but is it even worth 13 bucks? Let's talk about these, five of my personal favorites from this house. Stay tuned. So for comparison's sake, we might as well start with the one that I have an old bottle of and a newer bottle of, and it's my favorite from the house. We're going to talk about Cambridge Night. Basically a slightly matured version of Invictus Aqua. There was a time when I preferred this over Invictus Aqua. It's still a gorgeous, gorgeous scent. This is the original bottle. It is a much more transparent, deep red, very defined gold print graphics on it, whereas this is one of the loose Marshall's bottles for $13, price tag still on it. So much more pale metallic, less transparent, and there's a little bit less detailing as far as the refinement for the gold print. So if you see them side by side, this one is the older bottle. Not a huge difference, but when you look at the difference in the actual transparency of the bottle, you can clearly see through. You can see through this one pretty easily, whereas with this one, not so much. Much more reflective and metallic. So that's the visual difference. They still come in the same presentation, but this is one of the newer ones that performs weaker. Still smells exactly the same. I don't believe they've changed anything about the notes and the scent profiles, but it does smell like it's got a little bit less of that oomph to the scent profile that this one, and I do have a smaller 20 ml of this older style bottle as well, that oomph that this one provides, it's lacking a little bit in here, whereas I used to get 8+ hours. Out of this bottle, I still get every bit of 8 to 10 hours easily. I get more in that 4 to 5 hour range here. Now, is that the end of the world for $13? Abso-freaking-lutely not. So, what it comes down to is, are you okay with what most people would consider 4 to 3, anywhere from 3 to 5 hours, depends on your skin. People would consider very subpar performance, but at the sub $15 price point, because you're paying less than $15 for sealed box presentations at Burlington as well. Is this worth your money? Even though they're not like they used to be a few years ago. Of course, if you can get this, that's ideal, but there's no batch codes on these, so you won't know until you open the box. And this seems to be the pattern with all of them. A lot of them were more transparent, like Oxford Blue, we'll talk about a little bit. Now it's a bit more reflective like this, and so on. So it comes down to, are you willing to sacrifice that performance to still get a fantastic deal? We'll talk about it at the end, but I got to tell you, if you haven't tried Cambridge Night and you like Invictus, or maybe Invictus was too sweet and playful, too youthful, too juvenile for you, you might want to check out Cambridge Night, because there's some black currant in here. Lily of the Valley gives it a little bit more of a tart fruitiness instead of a super sweet fruitiness. It kind of tames some of that youthful sweetness. It's not quite as aquatic. It's actually a really good scent profile. It's English Laundry Cambridge Night. One of my favorite spicy fragrances that I have multiple bottles of, I kind of strictly wear in the winter, we are talking about Windsor. So this is a polarizing one. Some people think it smells like an old man and so on. There's some cloves in here. That's kind of the culprit. Cloves, cumin, that type of stuff. A synthetic oud, a lot of spice. There might even be a little bit of tobacco. It's a little raw and animalic. It's very spicy and warm. It's very warming on the skin. It's matured and masculine. This older style bottle, which all of my bottles are the older style, around 10 hours of life on my skin. Another one, 8 to 10 hours easily every time I wear it. This is my favorite for the cold weather from them. Now, admittedly, I have so many fragrances that these kind of get lost in the shuffle. And this is one that I do randomly. This is the one I revisit the most, and it's usually just in the winter. Winter is still a little bit away from me, the weather that I deem this ideal for, but I do plan on throwing it into the rotation at least minimum once or twice, because I do enjoy this scent profile quite a bit. Again, this seems to be the most polarizing from the house from what I've gathered, but it's absolutely one of my personal favorites from the house. If you like spicy and you want something that's not every other fragrance spicy, you might want to take a look at this one, because it is a little bit different. It is a little bit more grown up and matured for sure. Very, very masculine fragrance. Has an old style with a ton of spice. There's not a bunch of citrus here. There's not a heavy dose of dense woods until you get in the deep dry down. And there's not a bunch of florals to kind of offset some of this animalic tone and spiciness. It's just masculine, manly, and great for the cold weather. It's English Laundry, Windsor. Let's talk about one of these smaller bottles I have. For example, English Laundry Oxford Bleu. This is one of the ones I was talking about. This is one of the 20 mLs that come in the little 4-pack coffrets that you can get from the brand, and you can find them at the rack stores. They show up at the rack stores for around 20 bucks, and you can get 4 different scents, 20 milliliters a piece. It's actually a great way to check this house out, and usually they have different coffrets. I have a few coffrets myself that have some of the newer scents like Crown and Throne, for example, and then a lot of these classics will have they'll have some of these classics like Oxford Bleu. They'll have English Laundry London, which is their version of Aventus, and so on. But this is Versace Eros. This is a slightly more well-rounded, polished, and not really refined. I wouldn't call it dressy, but it does smell a little bit more grown up. It's not as youthful and playful. It's not quite as fruity. There's a little bit of iris in here that adds a nice, soft, powdery floral tone. It still has that vanilla and apple and mintiness and all the things that make Eros a popular fragrance to begin with. But there was a long time that I didn't think I needed Eros because I would just wear this. I've knocked out close to half of it, about 10 ml. I don't know how well, close to 10 ml, about 8 ml roughly. Because this fragrance goes a long way. This is a great, great 10-hour performer again. Just like the other ones, again, this is an older style bottle. I have no idea what the newer ones do as far as Oxford Bleu. I haven't tried the newer ones. But I gotta spray that again. It's so good. I forgot just how good it is. The apple's not so fruity. It's a little bit more sharp here. It's less fruity sweet apple, more sharp apple. And you still get that nice dose of smooth woods in the dry down. It's a little musky. This is actually a beautiful fragrance. This is a lot of people's favorite from the house, and definitely one I recommend you check out. This is one to check out. I mean, hell, all 5 of the ones we're discussing in this video are my 5 personal favorites, and these 5 have been around for a long time. Some of these, which we'll get to the next two, have been around for some of the longest from the house, because the house is several years old at this point. And if you like Eros, or maybe you want to like Eros, but it just doesn't jive with you, it smells too kiddie, too juvenile, too youthful, whatever word you want to use, maybe check this one out. Maybe get your hands on one of those Coffret 4-packs that has this in it, because you can usually see in to see what fragrances they have, even at the rack stores, and give this one a try. It might be that missing link for what's keeping you from wearing some version of the Eros DNA, because it's probably the smoothest and most grown up of the fragrances that smell like Eros. It's English Laundry Oxford Bleu. So let's get to one more 20 ml. This is one that I've debated on getting a full bottle of over and over. This is one of the original scents called Arrogant. Arrogant is an extremely soapy clean aromatic. I'll never forget one of the first times I wore this back when I worked at Mercedes-Benz of Sugarland. My pre-owned manager, good old Lefke, if you happen to see this video, Lefke, I had just refreshed. This is a strong fragrance. I had just sprayed a few more sprays just to kind of lift the scent bubble. And he walked by my desk and he said, "It smells like Fabuloso in here." I thought that was hilarious. Very strong, soapy clean type of smell. Heavy, 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 heavy soapy lavender. I want to say there might be a little bit of neroli in here as well. I don't remember the notes. I know there's some soft woods, maybe a sandalwood or something. But it's a very creamy, not so much powdery, but mega soapy fragrance. Anytime I do a soapy clean video, I tend to forget about this one because this is possibly the most soapy fragrance, the soapiest of the fragrances in my collection. And I actually really dig that about this. This is straight up soap, but this is a powerful soap fragrance. This is another one that I would get every bit of 7 or 8 hours on my skin, and it'd be very loud for the first 2 hours. This stuff really projects. This is one of the older style 20 mls, like I was saying. It's a really good fragrance. God, I love this stuff. I haven't smelled it in so long. Yep. Might be a little too synthetic. For some, you may get that fabuloso smell that Lefke had got as well. God, that's strong. God, that smells good. This is another one that if you like soapy fragrances and you're looking for a powerful one, now I can't speak on the newer bottles. It might not be as strong as this one, but this is one of the strongest soap fragrances I've ever put on my skin. I've knocked out pretty much half of it, about 10 ml, and I've kind of been scarce with it. I kind of put it to the side for a later date, and maybe now is that later date for me to revisit it. But this is the best soapy fragrance from the house. Yes, English Laundry Signature kind of borrows a similar smell to it. That's kind of walks more the path of La Male. But this one, this is just straight up soap. Think fragrances like Mugler Cologne and stuff like that, but much more soapy. It's English Laundry Arrogant. Then the last one we're going to talk about, I have a sealed 100 milliliter full presentation bottle of the older style, as well as this older style bottle. It's probably the most versatile, for me anyways, the most versatile from the house. Kind of smells like YSL L'Homme, but performs a lot better than YSL L'Homme. It's English Laundry Riviera. Very soft citrus at the top, powdery, creamy sandalwood type of smell. It's very similar, not one-to-one, but very similar to YSL L'Homme. This is English Laundry's take on the YSL L'Homme DNA. Yeah, that is L'Homme. And they did a great job with it. It doesn't smell sharp, synthetic, cheap, and chemical to me. I have smelled some of the loose, newer bottles, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's like an 8-hour fragrance like this one is. This is another one, 8 to 10 hours. But if I want to remember, I'm trying to remember, because there's a few times I've sprayed on my hand, and I want to say it lasted every bit of like 5 hours on my skin, which for $13, I mean, it's hard to complain, because for a lot of people, 5 hours is better than YSL L'Homme, and this is a fraction of the price of YSL L'Homme. It's a great fragrance. The first time I smelled it, I fell in love. I ended up going back to TJ Maxx, where I got this from, because they had more bottles, and bought a backup bottle. I've had the 2 bottles for years now. I haven't been wearing it much lately. This dent is from a few years ago, actually. These, like I said, they kind of got shelved and pushed to the side because I felt like it was not the easiest house to really talk about anymore, because I know their fragrance's performance has changed. The strength of the scent profile has weakened a little bit. But when you factor in the price point, it's like, why not talk about these? Because some of these are still some fantastic, cheap little hidden gems from the house. And Riviera might be the most versatile from the house. Granted, they've expanded the fragrance offerings from English Laundry greatly since I used to buy all of these fragrances, but I also started buying these towards the end of the heyday of these stronger batches that I'm definitely happy to have more than one bottle of my favorites, like this, like Cambridge Night, like Windsor. Some of these are just, they're priceless for me at this point, even though I paid next to nothing for them, but because of what they provide as far as the enjoyment of the scent profile and the performance, I couldn't ask for more. And if you've never smelled this one and you like YSL L'Homme, but you just don't want to spend the money on L'Homme, you really should check this one out, because it really does the job. Pretty accurate to the scent profile without being complete copycat. And even the weaker ones, I'm sure, performs better than current batches of YSL L'Homme. It's English Laundry Riviera. So now to just put it out there, do I think you still check them out? I've alluded to it a few times because of the price point. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because these sealed boxes are still like the same price as the loose bottles at Marshall's and TJ Maxx. $13. They still pop up all the time. I still see them at the rack stores. The usual suspects. I'll see Riviera. I'll see English Laundry Signature. I will see Crown. I will see English Laundry London. London is the one that's always been English Laundry, London, and Signature are the two that were always weak performers from the start. I have an eau de toilette version of London. I have an eau de parfum version of London. Old bottles from when they launched back in like 2018, I want to say London came out, and neither of them perform worth a crap. Yeah, the EDP smells a little bit richer, but at best it gives me like 4 hours on my skin. Go anosmic to it pretty quick. English Laundry London smells fantastic. The way I like to describe that one is if you like a Ventus, but you want a cheap version of a Ventus that you can spray heavy and spray for literally anything. Out the shower, keep in the gym bag, go play golf, whatever, where you love a Ventus, it's one of your favorite fragrances, but you don't want to spray your bottle of a Ventus, but you want to get somewhat of an Ventus experience for cheap, and you don't need a lot of performance. That's the way to go. That's basically a Ventus for the gym is how you can look at it. No matter which one you end up with. I don't even know if they still make the two concentrations anymore, but I say if you see them out there and they interest you, Tahitian Waters, it's a nice, sweet, tropical fragrance. It's got some yellow florals to it, a little bit of coconut, some brown sugar sweetness. That's another one that's lovely. I say go for it. You could do a lot worse. You're probably going to end up really liking the way these fragrances smell because they have a lot of similarities to a lot of more popular scent profiles with their own little tweak. Like I said, Cambridge Night, Invictus, with a little bit of a change to it. You got some white florals with Lily of the Valley. You have some tartness with black currant. Same thing with Oxford Blue. There's a little bit of iris. It's not as youthful. Still reminds you of Eros, clear as day, but a little bit different take on it, and so on. So I hope this video was helpful for a lot of you guys. Until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. So I do appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing from you guys. How many of you have English Laundry fragrances? Which ones do you have? Which ones do you love or can't stand? What's your performance experience like? I'd love to read all of that stuff down in the comments. And until next time, I will say if you get your hands on anything from English Laundry, really, you give it a spray now and you pay less than 15 bucks for it, pretty confident you'll thank me later because they're still a great bargain, even here in 2022. Have a good one, guys.